Okay, so welcome back guys. In this part we're actually going to go ahead and I'll show you the process of how to create the mesh. And because this is the last part in this part, if you know what I mean, it's a bit confusing, you will be able to go ahead and finish the whole front piece. So all I'm going to show you is how to create the mesh for one section, and then you can go ahead and duplicate that same section to create the layer 4 and also this little one, and then you'll use the same technique to go ahead and create this main mesh. Now there are different ways that we can do this, probably many different ways, because we are doing sort of product modeling and we are not worried about the poly count, we are more worried about the realism. We're actually going to go ahead and model the mesh in. Obviously if you were doing this for a game or whatsoever, first you wouldn't be doing it in high poly most likely, and you would probably just use a plane all the way down here and then just texture in and so on. But in this demonstration we're actually going to go ahead and model this in. So at first when you look at it, it looks very complicated, but it actually is really simple once you know the technique. And you're actually first going to go ahead and model a guy like this. So this is all it is. And then we're going to go ahead and duplicate this guy down with precision and so on, and then duplicate it across, merge it all together, merge the vertices, and we've basically got ourselves the mesh. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do, and with all mesh, that's what you should do really, is first you should really look at it, what sort of shape it is. Now this looks more like a sort of a rectangular shape than a circle. But for this demonstration, in the actual model that you've seen, I actually done them as circles, and they're a bit simpler as well, and lighter as well. So the first thing we want to go ahead and do is create a pipe. Okay, so let's go ahead and drag out a pipe, and then go ahead and give it some height, and then go ahead and give it some thickness as well. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to go ahead and go on to our inputs of the poly pipe, and we're going to take this down all the way to 8. Okay, and this is all we need for our first piece. And then we're going to go ahead and select this right vertice and snap it up, and then snap it to the right as well. And do the same thing with this guy. So snap it up to that guy and snap it to the left to this guy. So we're going to do the same thing on the bottom as well. Snap it there, snap it down, and do the same thing here as well. So the first few pieces, precision is really important because it will save you a lot of time when you merge the vertices together and so on. So it's really crucial that you get this stage right. Otherwise, when you duplicated everything over, it's going to be a pain to go ahead and merge the vertices together. So after we got that shape, I just deleted all them faces, so we can go ahead and duplicate this over and then merge the vertices together. And then now what we need to do is add in the supporting edges. So when we go ahead and smooth this, it will hold its shape. Okay, so first thing we're going to go ahead and do is add in an edge loop here on the inner side and on the back as well. Seem like, there we go. So let's go ahead and add one in here as well. And now if you smooth it, as you can see, this is what our actual hole going to look like. Now if you want it to make this more rectangular, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You would have to go ahead and add in loops in here and possibly add in extra divisions for the cylinder and so on. So this will hold its shape for the shape that you need, but we're just going to use a circle now. So this is the main shape that we go ahead and duplicate over. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do once we have this is we're going to go ahead and position this where we need this. And now once you have the first section created, what you should pay attention to is the pattern of the mesh. So as you can see, they are not just down and across, they're actually displaced a little bit, so they sort of go something like this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and duplicate this, our main section, well, the primary section over, and we're going to keep that as our original, so we don't have to model it again when we go ahead and use this same technique for the bigger mesh and so on. So once we made sure that we have our sort of primary piece, then we can go ahead and position this in the right place. We also know what sort of pattern this is going down on, so we know that this is for the first row they're all in line, so all we got to do is duplicate this down, and then for the second row we're going to have to go ahead and displace this a little bit. So let's go ahead and worry about the first section for now. So let's go ahead and basically all we need to do is just duplicate this and move it down. Okay, now for precision wise, what we're going to go ahead and do is move the pivot of this, so it will be easier for us to move it to the right place. Okay, so just press the insert on the keyboard and then hold down V on my keyboard to go ahead and snap this up to the top part of the mesh. So once we have that, we can go ahead and duplicate this, select that axis, hold down V and snap it to the bottom of this mesh. Okay, and this way they line up perfectly fine. And now again I'm going to go press Shift D this time, not Control D, and what that will do, it will duplicate this piece exactly the same way as it duplicated the last piece. Okay, and that's why it's really crucial that these line up perfectly on the first duplication, because after that we're just going to carry on pressing Shift D. Okay, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, and as you can see all the duplications line up. So I'm just going to carry on doing that, and as you can see there's our first sort of line finished. So this is our first section. Once we have that, we're going to go ahead and select all of these and group them together. So this is our row 1. And then we're going to go ahead and duplicate this, but before that again we need to go ahead and move the pivot. So I'm going to go ahead and center pivot so I see where it is, press insert on my keyboard, and I'm going to go ahead and snap it to the left side of this mesh. Now we can go ahead, select that axis, duplicate it and snap it to the right side. Okay, and again what this will allow us to do is that these two rows now perfectly line up. But there is one more trick to do here. Okay, so this second row is actually displaced by sort of half the size, and because we positioned our pivot at the right place, we can just go ahead and snap this up to the half side of this circle, and that will give us the exact position that we need for this row. Now what you will notice though is that because we've done that, now this the top and the bottom half of the mesh don't exactly line up. So what we need to go ahead and do is fix that by deleting these top faces on this top piece. Okay, and now we need to go ahead and duplicate this guy, just a single one, snap it down, select the face and delete that. Okay, and that will give us this primary mesh that we sort of need. Now we could go ahead and fill in this gap here if we really wanted to, and same here as well, but we don't really need to, because we're going to go ahead and give this a little sort of mesh around, well not mesh, but a sort of metal edge that goes around this mesh that will go ahead and cover this up. So once we have this, we can go ahead and select these two rows, and basically this is our primary or sort of secondary section that we're going to go ahead and then duplicate across all the way. So let's go ahead and group this together and name this again row 1. And then again, let's go ahead and modify center pivot on this guy, and then make sure we go ahead and snap the pivot to the left of this mesh. Now we can go ahead and duplicate this, select that axis, snap it to the right side of that mesh, make sure that they line up perfectly, and then now all we gotta do is go ahead and press Shift D, and it will go ahead and duplicate our mesh all the way across where we need it. Okay, so we basically now have our mesh. We can go ahead and select them all, group it together, name it our mesh. Okay, and now we can go ahead and name this guy, or merge the mesh together. So you can go to mesh combine, and this might take some time. Okay, so after we have it all merged together, let's go ahead and delete the history on this. Okay, and now all we got to do is basically merge the vertices together. Now if you didn't line these up perfectly, it would be a massive pain to merge all the vertices together, but because we've done it this way, you can just select all the vertices and give it a really small threshold, probably like 0.001 that you see there. Merge it together. Okay, and we basically got our mesh finished. So now what you can do is you can go ahead and smooth this guy. Now this, if you don't have a fairly decent computer and you press 3 now, your computer will probably crash. So this will give you an error, well, sort of a warning saying that there are a large number of faces in this mesh, and you might run out of memory if you smooth it. Okay, now I know that I got enough, so I can just click yes, and as you can see, this is what our mesh is going to look like when we go ahead and smooth this. Now if you do get this warning and it doesn't want to smooth for you, what you can do is you can go to mesh, and then you can use the smooth attribute. If I find it, smooth, there we go, click on box, and then you can go and set division level to 1 and hit smooth. Okay, and this will give you somewhat of a nice idea of what smooth division 1 is. Now I'll bring up the poly count, because this is going to be, this mesh is really heavy. So just with 1 divisions, we are already at 112,000 faces. So in this model, what makes it really heavy is not really the actual case, but this mesh that we model in. So you can go and have a look what it's going to be like with 2 divisions. Okay, so we're already at 451,000 faces. And what it would actually look like if we used modify, convert, smooth mesh preview to polygons, that would be this, which is going to take a while, and that is actually nearly 2 million polygons. Okay, so just for this one mesh piece, it's 2 million polys if you go ahead and smooth it with 3 divisions. So just bear that in mind, that this is going to be really heavy, especially if this is 2 million faces, and you're going to go ahead and duplicate this here and then down 4 times, and you got this main mesh piece, and then you got this big mesh on the top as well. It's going to be really heavy, so you might only want to use, even for your rendering, just 2 subdivisions and not 3. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and undo this and leave it on 0. Okay, so undo one more time. Okay, so we got our mesh finished. Let's go ahead and put this to the right place where we need it to. Let's just go ahead and modify center pivot. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and give it the sort of rim that it needs. So basically, we just want to give this a little bit of a rim, and that should work fairly fine if we just go ahead and make a sort of a cube that goes all the way, or a rectangle that goes all the way down and up. So let's go into our front view and create a cube. Okay, polygon primitives, let's create a cube. Like so, give it some height, and let's just select both of these guys and isolate them again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger, probably roughly there. like so. Let's go into a side view and make sure it's the right thickness. Where the hell did our mesh go? Did my mesh just, oh no, it didn't disappear. I'm being silly, it's not at the right place. Okay, so select both of them, side view, press F. Okay, so there it is. Let's go ahead and make sure that these guys are the right width. So I'm just selecting them verts and snapping them. And we don't even have to smooth this guy out, to be honest. So I'm just going to select all of those vertices. And I'm gonna go ahead and drag this up. And then go ahead and push this back. Okay, and then let's go ahead and extrude this guy. Okay, so I'm just dragging this guy all the way down here. We could possibly just, well, it doesn't really make too much difference really. So I'm just gonna drag it out here, add in a loop here, and now I'm gonna go ahead and select both of these, and on the other side, go back into my front view, extrude again, push these guys down, and then add a loop in here, select that face, oops, it's on the other side. And drag it all the way across. Now I'll just add in a loop here and then merge these guys together. So I'll just isolate this so I can see better what I'm doing. Merge vertex tool. Make sure I delete these inner faces. Might help. Okay, and there's our rim. So this is what you're going to get. There's your mesh all finished with its rim. Okay, so it looks great. Now we can go ahead and group this guy together and name it mesh small. We still have our original when we need it for the next piece. And then for the front, we can just go ahead and duplicate this. So I can go ahead and duplicate it. And again, this is heavy. I mean, even on smoothed, it's 6,600, 66,000 faces. So yeah, it's not the it's not a light piece for sure. So now I can just go ahead and start duplicating this. And actually, if I wanted to be really precise, I can go ahead and snap the wort. Up here, and there isn't a vertex there, so we can just snap it here, and then snap it there, and I know for a fact that these guys will line up very nicely. Okay, do that one more time, do that one more time, Shift D, and the front of our case is finished. So then what you want to do, you want to use this same technique to create this smaller piece. Now you could go ahead and cheat it by cutting the faces of this that you already combined. Okay, So you could do it that way, or you can just use the Shift D with the small original mesh, create the 3-row high section, duplicate it across, create the banner, the sort of edge for it, okay, and then you want to do the exact same thing but for this main mesh piece. And most likely what you will need to do is you're going to have to go ahead and add these to a layer, and when we go ahead and model the rest of the case, they are going to have to be hidden, okay, if your computer can't really handle the poly count on them. Even on smooth they are really heavy. Already on smooth they're at over 100,000 faces, so you might want to be careful with how heavy this is going to get by adding things to a layer, well, especially adding the mesh to a layer and hiding them while modeling, okay, and turn them on and so on when you render. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoy this series. Have fun creating the rest of the mesh, and I'll also show you how to create the top mesh, so don't worry about that too much for now because that has a little bit of an extra detail and so on. But you guys can go ahead and finish up the mesh for the front while you're waiting for the next part of the tutorial. So I hope you guys have been enjoying this series. I have, and I'll see you guys next time.